4. Here they come to the flag. 3 abreast. Photo finish.
When it comes to stock car auto racing, the people that tend to compete in the sport are some of the best drivers in the world. Think a person can go over 200 miles per hour in a 5-hour stretch for more than 500 miles without making contact with other drivers on the track going the same speed without any mistakes is an impressive feat. And most of those drivers do that every weekend for roughly 38 weeks straight. With that being said, sometimes mistakes can happen in a split second that can make a race from going smoothly to an absolute disaster. I mean, it's bound to happen to every driver sooner or later. Sometimes it's the driver's fault, and sometimes it's just one of those racing deals. However, there are some moments in NASCAR that have been so shocking, so unbelievable, and the only thing most of us can do is scratch our head and yell, "What were they thinking?" Some incidents are humorous, while others are pretty hard to watch. Regardless, we are going to attempt to make ourselves feel just a little bit better with our driving skills by looking at some of the dumbest moments to happen in NASCAR history. So sit back, relax, and enjoy some of the worst moments these drivers have to offer from a skills standpoint.
I can't believe what I just saw there.
He has no idea how to race.
The kid's an idiot.
Unprofessional little scaredy cat I've ever seen in my life.
Run over a bug-eyed dummy, I guess. It's somebody doing something stupid that's brought out the conflict in the race.
To start this video off, there is no better place to start than the biggest race that every stock car driver dreams about running, the Daytona 500. Qualifying for the Daytona 500 is one of the most stressful things for a small NASCAR team. That is mostly due to the fact that the purse is the largest in the series. So much so that the last position can bring in a minimum of $250,000. And that was back in the 2010s. So I cannot imagine what last place brings in today. I bet you it's way more than that. In the 2012 Daytona 500, 49 teams entered into the 500 qualifier, hoping to be one of the 43 teams to run in the Great American Race. One of those teams was the number 40 team of Hillman Racing. Hillman Racing was a fairly new team who attempted their first cup races in 2011 with TJ Bell. The team didn't have a good rookie year as they missed 66% of the races they entered. Hoping to turn their luck around for 2012, Hillman Racing would hire on the 2-time Daytona 500 winner Michael Waltrip to drive their number 40 machine. Michael Waltrip clearly showed skill at super speedways, plus strong sponsorship backing made Waltrip a no-brainer to sign on. In the Daytona duels, Waltrip was in a rough spot as he went down pit road by himself. If he was going to be able to stay in contention to qualify for the main show, Waltrip would have to have the best green flag pit stop execution of his career. Unfortunately, this is what he did while getting up to speed.
Michael spun on the back, and Michael crashed down the back. Oh my gosh, what happened? He's down on the apron.
Keep taking their packs just out the end of pit road.
When he came up on the racetrack, the thing just jumped around with him.
Michael Waltrip had destroyed his car when coming up the embankment of the racetrack trying to get up to speed. Unfortunately, Waltrip got too impatient racing on the track to even out and lost control of the car going down the back straightaway. The incident was bizarre and heartbreaking for the 2-time champ, as the mistake cost him any chance of making what would have been his 26th Daytona 500 start. Hillman Racing was affected so negatively by this DNQ that they wouldn't be able to attempt another race until the 7th race of that season. Although Waltrip's mistake was one of the bigger bonehead moves during speed weeks, he can at least say he didn't do the bonehead move at the Daytona 500 himself. That award goes to a different 2-time Daytona 500 winner, this one being Sterling Marlin. Marlin joined some of the greatest in the sport by winning back-to-back Daytona 500s in the mid-90s. However, the last few years weren't good for the Tennessee native, as he would either suffer mediocre finishes in the event or be involved in highly controversial incidents. In 2002, Sterling Marlin was looking to right the ship as he had the strongest car in the entire field. With just 5 laps to go, Sterling Marlin was starting in the 2nd position, only behind the 4-time champion of Jeff Gordon. During the restart, a bottleneck would happen in the middle of the pack, sending multiple cars down towards the infield. This would allow Sterling Marlin to get a peek on the inside of Jeff Gordon, which led to Gordon putting a late block on the Tennessee native. Although Sterling Marlin was able to make it back to the line first, he clearly had damage on the right front of his car, causing the fender to rub in on the tire. NASCAR would throw the red flag in hopes of finishing the race under green. Marlin was in a tough situation during the red flag period as he realized his two choices. 1. Go down pit road once the yellow comes out and lose his first starting position, or 2. Stay out on the racetrack and face the risk of a tire blowout around the turn at around 200 miles per hour. Neither scenario seemed that great for the number 40 team. However, both would seem to be genius ideas when Sterling Marlin executed the third option.
Front damage looks. The car, Sterling Marlin is jumping out of his car. He's going around to look at the right front fender. But, oh, he can't do that.
You can't work on your car under the red flag. That's the NASCAR rule.
Pull it off a little bit.
You're not allowed to work on your car under the red flag.
To the shock of millions watching, Sterling Marlin would hop out of his race car, run to the right front of his car, and attempt to fix the car himself. Clearly a move that violated the rules under red flag conditions, as the car is not allowed to be repaired in any shape or form during a red flag condition. This didn't stop the Tennessee native from trying to sneak away with this move, but of course, when you're the leader of the biggest race of the season and millions are watching from home, people are going to see you trying to fix your car under a red flag condition. Sterling Marlin was penalized and sent to the tail end of the field for the restart. He would wind up finishing 8th, leaving the track with no trophy and an iconic image for the rest of us to forever enjoy. As dumb as the moves Sterling Marlin and Michael Waltrip did at Daytona, it pales in comparison to what LePage did in the 2008 Xfinity Series race at Talladega. At this point in his career, LePage was known as a longtime veteran in the then Busch Series, as he had been racing in the series since 1994. Although he hadn't ran a full-time season since 1997, LePage signed on with a team known as Specialty Racing, driving the number 61 machine. Although he missed the opening race at Daytona, Kevin LePage was hoping to have a better showing at the sister track of Talladega Superspeedway. In the middle of the race, Kevin LePage went down pit road to fix a loose wheel on his race car, leading to him to lose the pack and put him out of contention. At this point, LePage was already going to go multiple laps down. However, that didn't stop him from entering the racetrack far too soon.
David Stremme and another car owned by Rush. Oh, we got a spin. It's a tap from Wallace.
Right behind you.
Oh, the big one in turn one, heavy contact, cars in the wall, Stephen Wallace heavily damaged. There comes Kyle Krisiloff down, David Rudiman involved.
The wreck would take out 14 cars that were running in the front of the pack, leading to a sour taste for all involved. Many expected Kevin LePage to apologize for coming up the racetrack so soon and right in front of the leaders, but instead, this is what he had to say.
Matter of fact, left side's lower than the apron, and there's 40 other guys up there trying to spot these things, and they couldn't see me coming out of the pits with this red and yellow race car. Then maybe they need to get new spotters.
Well, guys, obviously a very disappointed driver there.
A statement that clearly upset the officials and NASCAR, as clearly the rules stated that all drivers must stay below the line until turn 2 and not turn 1. Making a dumb mistake at such fast speeds is one thing, but blaming everyone but yourself for the mistake takes some serious guts and lack of thought. LePage would eventually apologize for his mistake, but the damage was done to his reputation, leading to him to lose his ride after the following superspeedway race at Daytona. Doing a stupid move at a superspeedway is sometimes scary to witness, as many can be put at risk of injury due to the mistake made by the driver. With that said, the fear is a little more relaxed at short racetracks, as the speed is nowhere near close to what is seen at Daytona or Talladega. Nonetheless, it sometimes gives an excuse for some drivers to do more thoughtless moves than they would at faster racetracks. Case in point with our next entry being a driver that many of you are well aware of thoughtless moves. Everyone's favorite driver to bag on, Danica Patrick. When most people talk about Danica Patrick's dumbest moment in her NASCAR career, many point back to her rookie season, when she wrecked herself trying to pay back Landon Cassill on the racetrack. The move in itself qualifies for a list like this, but in my opinion, there is one move that she did later in her career that was more egregious than this, and that was in the 2015 fall race at Martinsville Speedway. This race is mostly remembered for two key moments, one where Matt Kenseth got his revenge on Joey Logano by wrecking him going into turn 1, and 2 being Jeff Gordon's final victory in his legendary career. With that being said, one thing that was forgotten in this race was an incident that involved Danica Patrick and the number 38 machine of David Gilliland. Earlier in the race, David Gilliland would make an aggressive move to the number 10 car, causing Danica to go up the racetrack and hit the wall. This greatly upset Danica, as throughout the whole race she was planning her exact moment on getting revenge on the 38 car. With about 80 laps to go, the two would be nose to tail on the racetrack. Danica saw this as her moment to get swift revenge on Gilliland. Fortunately for us, this was the execution of her revenge.
I don't care who you are, that was just wrong.
What felt like less of a strategic pit maneuver and more of like a 10-year-old playing NASCAR Thunder, Danica Patrick chased down David Gilliland around the turn and failed to spin out the number 38 car, leading to her spinning out herself. If that wasn't bad enough, she would fire the car back up and try again to exact revenge. However, Gilliland was ready and brake checked the angry driver, destroying the front end of her car and ending her day. Turns out that Danica unfortunately did not learn the number one rule of stock car racing, and her crew chief had this to say after the incident.
That was stupid. Sorry.
If Danica Patrick lost her cool in this moment, then Brian Vickers lost his mind the entire event in the 2011 Martinsville Fall Race. Similar to Danica Patrick, Brian Vickers is not remembered too fondly during his time in the sport. That's not to say he wasn't a talented driver. There were just some questionable moves that he made during his time in NASCAR. One that immediately turned him into one of the most hated drivers in NASCAR was his move in the 2006 Talladega race, where he would spin out both Jimmy Johnson and Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the final lap. Whether it was intentional or a late move for the North Carolina native, it went down as one of the most unpopular moves in the turn of the millennium. As hated of a move as this was, I wouldn't necessarily call it a dumb move, as it didn't look 100% intentional. Plus, he got the win, so how dumb of a move was it really? The same couldn't be said for his stint in the Martinsville race, as it went on to become possibly one of the worst meltdowns that has been seen in the NASCAR Cup Series. Brian Vickers wasn't involved in just one wreck, not two, not three, but a whole 5 different incidents on the track were caused by the number 83 machine. Brian Vickers' performance was so bad that a new term was created in the NASCAR racing world by just how dumb his driving was that day. So yes, he may be known as a Cup Series driver who scored 3 victories, but there is a good chance many know him for his dumb moves known as Vickernism. Brian Vickers and Danica Patrick didn't help their cases in having the NASCAR community believe they were top-tier drivers. With that said, they at least had some high points in their careers to fall back on. For an example, Vickers won multiple races, while Danica Patrick was able to break grounds as a female driver, including leading the Daytona 500. The next few following drivers cannot say the same, as most fans only remember them for their blunders in the sport. Alex Kennedy was a part-time driver from New Mexico who ran in both the Xfinity and Cup Series. Even though his total number of races he attempted in all 3 series doesn't equate to 50 races, he is still remembered by many for a move he made in the 2011 5-Hour Energy 200 at Dover. Alex Kennedy was running in the number 23 machine for R3 Motorsports, a team whose results in both Xfinity and Cup were nothing too impressive. In the middle of the race, Alex Kennedy would run into some trouble on the back straightaway, ending any chance for the driver to receive a solid finish in the race. However, it was about to get a whole lot worse, as Kennedy was about to do something that nobody saw coming.
As we call no, what happened to Kevin Swindell?
Holy cow.
Good Lord. That is the 23, and what happened here?
Must have pulled up in front of him.
Oh, wow. Man. Oh.
What a bad break for Swindell, dude.
Look at this.
Oh, no
mercy.
Man, that was a bad decision.
And
right
look at
there.
Eric Almirola dodging both of them.
What could only be described as a driver not paying attention, Alex Kennedy would unexpectedly drive across the racetrack in front of the number 16 car of Kevin Swindell. Swindell had no time to react, as he would collide with the number 23 car, totaling both cars beyond recognition. The number 16 radio was bewildered by the incident, leaving everyone at home feeling the same, as no one knew how someone at that level of competition could make such a silly mistake. Surprisingly, This will not be the only time we see Alex Kennedy in this video, as only 3 years later, NASCAR would see the New Mexico native make his debut in the Cup Series at Sonoma in 2013. He wasn't the only one that was making their NASCAR Cup Series debut, as a driver from New Jersey named Paulie Haraka would make his debut in the number 52 car for Go Green Racing. Both were looking to have a good debut. However, that optimism would quickly disappear as both drivers would run into problems before the race even began.
Got into Alex Kennedy, both set to make their Sprint Cup debut today, and here's a replay of what happened.
That's just guys not paying attention. That's all
right.
That is.
19, the white machine of Alex Kennedy, and Paulie Haraka apparently not watching what's going on in front of him, just drilled him.
I have no idea what he was doing on that.
While leaving pit road to start their warm-up laps, Haraka would not be paying attention and run into the back of the number 19 machine of Kennedy. Both teams would suffer cosmetic damage as any hope for a good running day went out the door in just a matter of seconds. It's one thing to make a dumb move in the middle of a race. It's a whole different story when a mistake is made the moment a driver touches the gas pedal. Both drivers would continue on the race, but both would be involved in a caution before lap 35. Haraka would finish 39th, while Kennedy would DNF in the 40th position. Neither driver ever recovered from the incident, and by 2016, both drivers would be out of the sport entirely. It's easy to point a finger and laugh at a driver who makes a dumb mistake when they are new to the sport and not the same level of talent as the ones running for championships every season. However, when a legend in the sport makes a dumb mistake, it is simply jaw-dropping. And I feel like the best way to end a video like this would be to conclude with 3 incidents done by longtime veteran drivers who I felt like made some of the dumbest moves in NASCAR history, proving to us all that even the best in the sport are not immune from the occasional blunder in racing. Let's first start off with a driver that we see in the sport to this very day. Although he's no longer a driver in the sport, fans can still hear his voice in the NBC broadcast booth, and that is longtime veteran of Jeff Burton. Although he was never able to win a championship, Jeff Burton still had an impressive career that included 4 top 5 points finishes and 21 victories, including the 2000 New Hampshire race where he led every lap that race weekend. Most people remember Jeff Burton for his success in the sport. However, if you are a Jeff Gordon fan such as myself, then you probably remember Jeff Burton for an incident that happened in 2010 at the Fall Texas Motor Speedway race. In the third to last race in the 2010 season, the NASCAR chase for the championship was starting to come down to just a handful of drivers who could win the championship. One driver that was still in the mix was the 4-time champion of Jeff Gordon, even though he didn't score a win that season. Jeff Burton was also in the chase, but he was basically eliminated up to this point. Both drivers were struggling near the end of the race and were fighting to stay in front of each other. During their battle, a caution would fly due to a car getting loose going around the corner. Seemed like nothing out of the norm. That was until the cameras panned on over to the back straightaway.
Caution, oh no, and Jeff Gordon. Where in the world?
Bring it to me.
He's over at the exit of turn 2 and Jeff Burton involved. This had to happen at the opposite end of the racetrack.
God, we just raced on the back stretch. 24 cut up in front of me and caught my right front fender, my left front.
Jeff Burton and Jeff Gordon got into a wreck long after the caution was out. On the replays, it looked like Jeff Burton would purposely crash into Jeff Gordon coming out of turn number 2. It was later reported by Burton himself that he was trying to catch up to Gordon but was unable to see in the sunlight's glare. The situation was bad enough, as Jeff Gordon was clearly angry while storming on over to Jeff Burton. Burton would then make another questionable move by walking up the track to talk to Gordon, leading to this hilarious moment.
Walking towards oh my goodness, they're going at it, guys. I mean, literally, Jeff Gordon and Jeff Burton are doing battle here, kind of like Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier in the old days.
They've got a couple of officials between them now separating, and Jeff Gordon is hot. And if those NASCAR officials weren't there, this would have gotten a lot more heated than it is right now, and this continues to go on.
The two were separated quickly, but not until the whole world saw the two tussle with each other. And if the lack of intelligent moves couldn't get any worse, NASCAR decided to stick both drivers in the same ambulance after they just scuffled on the backstretch.
I'm still curious if they're going to put them both in the same ambulance. I don't think that would be the best move at this point. You know what? I'm kind of glad they did that, because what that does is that is a bigger Sports Center highlight than Kyle Busch flipping off an official.
Both were mathematically eliminated from the championship battle after this point, leaving both drivers to a mediocre season, and having their only highlight be about 10 minutes of dumb moves. This ordeal was quite humorous, as the only ones who were affected by Jeff Burton's move were the ones who started it. The next story, however, is the negative side of when a driver decides to pull a dumb move out on the racetrack. This next story takes us all the way back to the 1990 season, before Jeff Burton or Jeff Gordon started in the Cup Series. Back then, the most aggressive driver in the sport was hands down Dale Earnhardt, but if there was a runner-up candidate for the award, then Ernie Irving would more than likely be the winner. Irving was a talented driver in the sport, so much so that if he never had a severe accident at Michigan in 1994, then perhaps he could have won at least one Cup Series championship in his career. With that being said, Ernie Irving developed a reputation for being an overly aggressive driver. In fact, he even had to publicly apologize to his fellow drivers in a televised speech. Most of the time, the only thing that was hurt by Irving's actions was team race cars and drivers' feelings, although there was one move that was so dumb and dangerous that it inevitably ended a fellow driver's racing career. In the Trans-South 500 in 1990, Irving was battling for position on lap 78, but unfortunately spun his car down the front stretch, damaging the transmission. After a grueling repair job in the pits, he returned to the racetrack 10 laps down to the leader. However, you wouldn't have known that by the way he was racing for the rest of the event, because he was racing the leaders as if he was running for the victory. Maybe Ernie Irving was angry about the day as a whole, or perhaps he was sick of cars passing him while he just logged away laps. Whatever the reason, Ernie Irving decided that he was going to race the leaders like he was still on the lead lap. Near the end of the event, Ernie Irving was running side by side with the leader at the time, Ken Schrader. Eventually, one car was going to give, and that unfortunately would be Ernie Irving.
Uh-oh, he's loose again and taking Schrader with him.
Bodine's going to be involved, I believe. Several cars are going to get tangled up in this mess. The track is going to be completely blocked, and so did Earnhardt. Earnhardt got through unscathed, I believe, but we have a mess down off of corner number 4. The racetrack is almost blocked. It was.
Ernie Irving's Oldsmobile would break loose, sideswipe Schrader, and spin both cars into oncoming traffic, causing a chunk of the field to pile up. Amidst the chaos, the number 21 of Neil Bonnet cut down the track to try to avoid the wreck, but would instead run into Sterling Marlin's demolished car. The impact was sickening, caving the front of Bonnet's number 21 back to the cockpit. Neil Bonnet was knocked unconscious and had to be cut from the car by safety crews. He had no recollection of the crash and retired from racing due to the incident. Bonnet would only race 2 more events before his untimely death in the 1994 Speed Weeks at Daytona. Sadly, in a way, Ernie Irving's dumb move in the Darlington race in 1990 eventually led to Neil Bonnet's passing. This could be described to many as the dumbest move in NASCAR history. However, I would hate to end the video on such a negative note. Plus, there can only be one move that truly takes the cake as the dumbest move a driver has made in NASCAR history. And that goes to the most likable driver in the sport, Mark Martin. For those of you that know anything about Mark Martin, then you definitely have heard this story before. However, if you're not too familiar with this Hall of Famer, then strap yourself in for this story, as it is considered to many as the most bizarre ending to a race in NASCAR history. Before Kyle Busch, Martin was known as the most winningest driver in the Xfinity Series, with 49 victories. However, the number should have been 50, but we'll get to that in a second. Mark Martin would run a part-time schedule in the 90s in the Xfinity Series and win a majority of the races that he ran. In the 1994 Goodies 250, it seemed to be business as usual, as Mark Martin led the most laps of any driver in this race. With just 4 laps to go, the caution would come out from a 2-car incident that would end the race early due to the green-white checker rule not coming in until the mid-2000s. Mark Martin was looking to celebrate yet another victory in the series. That was until the white flag came out.
Yes. So that is our winner, Mark Martin.
And Mark Martin will win for the second time in a row from the pole.
Now he can't run out of gas, which he won't, of course, and I don't think he'll hit anything on this last half mile. Of course, he's been dodging bullets all day long.
Here goes Mark Martin. He's coming. What's he doing? Wait, look. He's coming down pit road. Wait a minute, Mark. The race is not over.
And Mark
Martin
pulled
in. David Green was winning this race.
David Green is going to win the race as Mark Martin has pulled down pit road.
I don't believe it. Have you ever seen a situation? I mean, the white flag was waving so clearly.
When the race ended under caution, Martin thought the race had ended and entered pit road with 1 lap to go. Nobody on the team informed him that the race had 1 more lap left and let the driver go down pit road, giving up his lead to David Green. The fans were dumbfounded, the viewers were dumbfounded, the announcers were dumbfounded, and the 60 team was horribly embarrassed. This goof allowed David Green to win his only race of the 1994 season, when he won the championship. Meanwhile, Mark Martin could do nothing but make fun of himself for the blunder he had committed in the race, where there was no possible way of him losing, making this hands down the dumbest move in NASCAR history.
I can't believe anybody else would be that stupid.
If there is something that we can learn from this video, it is that all drivers, no matter how skillful they are all humans and make mistakes. Whether the mistake was accidental or purposeful, no one is above the clutches of a dumb mistake. It's easy to look back at these stories now and critique them since we have the power of hindsight. But at the moment, we have to ask ourselves, if we were in their spot, would we have been smart enough to race differently, or would we just look as silly as them? Probably the latter decision. So with that said, I say that in the future, we should be more understanding when a driver makes a bad mistake in the middle of a long race. And also, if we make mistakes on the road, don't beat yourself up, because the chances are the driver you're watching on TV has more than likely made the same mistake as well. So until then, guys, learn from your mistakes, learn from these drivers' mistakes, and as always, you all take care.